Hello viewers, this is Dr. Sunil Kumar Ahuja. Welcome back in Brain and Disease Corner. Today I will be teaching you illness anxiety disorder. Previously it was called hypochondriasis in DSM-4. It is also called health anxiety disorder. As the name suggests, patients with illness anxiety disorder has excess of anxiety or concern about health status or disease. Friends, many of us do sometimes negatively think of having a serious illness when we develop some physical signs or symptoms or changes in our health status. But our anxiety or concern is transitory. When we consult the doctor and he or she reassures us that there is nothing wrong in our body, our anxiety and concern allays. But in some patients, their illness, preoccupation and anxiety does not subside. They don't satisfied with doctor's opinion. Even frequent reassurance provided by the doctor, negative lab reports or no abnormality found by the doctor. They think that their doctor is incompetent or he or she has missed something. So they change their doctor and visit to other doctor and hospital and coach them for investigation to be done. So in illness anxiety disorder, patient has the persistent anxiety and illness preoccupation. This illness anxiety disorder affects patient's cognition and emotions. For example, if someone is preoccupied with having a serious illness, they develop a excess anxiety and they frequently develop a health related maladaptive behaviors. For example, they check frequently their body or browse the internet to get the information about the presumed illness. They also frequently go to the doctors, or some patients also avoid the doctors and hospitals and health related informations. To make the diagnosis of illness anxiety disorder, we have ICD-10 criteria and the DSM-5 criteria. In DSM-5 criteria, there are the 6 criteria A to criteria F. As per the criteria A, patient has preoccupation with having or acquiring a serious illness. In criteria B, there are two things. First one is there is absence of the physical symptoms, or if there is physical symptoms, they are mild in intensity. Second one is if patient has already a medical illness or there are higher chances to develop the medical illness. For example, in case of strong family history, in that case their illness preoccupation is clearly excessive and inappropriate. As per the criteria C, patient has excess of health related anxiety and they are easily alarmed about their health status. Criteria D entails that patient has excessive maladaptive health related behaviors. For example, they excessively check their body for signs and symptoms of presumed illness. They browse internet frequently to get the information regarding a presumed medical illness. They visit from one doctor to another doctor, and some patients may avoid health related informations or doctors and hospitals. Criteria E is the duration criteria. In this criteria, patient must have signs and symptoms of illness anxiety disorder for at least 6 months. But during that period of the time, a presumed illness may change. As per the criteria F, these signs and symptoms should not be explained by the another mental disorders like obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, somatic delusions. Now coming to the specifiers of illness anxiety disorder. There are two specifiers of illness anxiety disorder. First one is the care seeking type and second one is the care avoidant type. In care seeking type, patient excessively seek a medical care, frequently visit doctors and hospitals and asking them to get investigation done. In care avoidant type, patient avoids the medical care. Now coming to the main and additional clinical features. Main clinical features. A patient is preoccupied with having or acquiring a serious illness, but they don't have physical symptoms. Their illness preoccupation is based on following things. First one is the strong family history of suspected medical illness. Second one is the presence of benign anatomical lesions or anomalies like moles, scars, etc. Third one is the presence of physiological sensations like orthostatic hypotension, dizziness, tingling, etc. Presence of benign, self-limited pathological lesions like transient tinnitus, heaviness of head, headache, ulcer, gas, abdominal bloating, abdominal fullness, etc. And last is getting in contact with deceased person or accidentally injured oneself with needle or other objects. Out of their illness preoccupation, patient develops excessive anxiety or depression. But this anxiety or depression is secondary to their fear of getting or having an illness. For example, if someone is come in front of them, they think that now they have acquired a COVID-19 or other infectious illness. Then they immediately go to the doctor and coach them for get investigation done. And in other example, when they get ill, they becomes nervous easily and they think that what happened after my death. Even they also alarmed easily when they hear or see that someone else is falling ill or even getting a negative health related information. Out of this illness preoccupation or anxiety, they frequently check their body for presence of signs and symptoms of suspected illness. They browse internet frequently to get information regarding suspected medical illness. They frequently seek reassurance from family, friends, doctors. They frequently visit the doctors and hospitals and ask them to get investigation done. But they don't satisfied with reassurances, negative lab reports, no any deformity found on physical examination or benign course. In contrast to this, providing reassurance sometimes elevates their anxiety. Now coming to the additional features supporting diagnosis. These patients have high rates of utilization of medical services. They visit doctor frequently, both general and emergency OPD. They take consultations from multiple physicians despite having the normal lab reports and frequent reassurance provided by the doctor. They usually does not satisfied with the doctor's advice, negative lab reports and reassurance provided by the doctor. They coach them for investigation to be done. Now coming to the prevalence. The prevalence of illness anxiety disorder is from 1% to 10% and it afflicted both males and females equally. Now coming to the course and prognosis. This disease started in the young adult life, particularly the 20 to 30 years of the age, and is precipitated by the stressful life events. Around 30 to 50% of the patients eventually recovers. In children, this disease is rare, but when it afflicts the children, they eventually recovers by the adolescent or young adult life. In older adults, the main focus of concern is memory loss. This disease has a chronic and episodic course. Each episode lasts from the months to years with a separation by the equally same duration of the symptom-free period. The good prognostic factors of illness anxiety disorders are the higher socioeconomic status, absence of the personality disorder, and treatment responsive anxiety and depression. Now coming to the risk factors. It is found that patients with illness anxiety disorders has the childhood history of the maltreatment like abuse, rejections, avoidance or neglect. They also have the history of the serious illness in oneself or in their family. Now coming to the etiologies of illness anxiety disorder. Although exact etiology of illness anxiety disorder is not known, but few etiologies have been proposed, like biological etiologies, social learning model, psychodynamic etiologies, and as a variant of other mental disorders. Under biological etiologies, patient has neuropsychological abnormalities and neurochemical abnormalities. As per the neuropsychological abnormalities, patient has faulty cognitive scheme and somatosensory amplification. Here, faulty cognitive scheme means patient pays attention excessively to any changes in the body, whether it is anatomical or physiological, and catastrophically misinterpret as a sign or symptom of the severe illness. Under somatosensory amplification, patient is biologically has low threshold for and low tolerance for distress. For example, they perceive pressure as a pain. And under neurochemical abnormalities, patient has the lower level of the neurotropin 3 levels and the serotonin levels. Now coming to the social learning model. As per the social learning model, patient hypochondrial symptoms are as a faulty way of coping the insurmountable and unsolvable problems. Through these hypochondrial symptoms, patient evade oneself from the uh, noxious duties and obligations and unwelcome challenges. Now coming to the psychodynamic model. As per the psychodynamic model, patients with illness anxiety disorder has two kinds of problems. First one is the underlying anger or help rejection, and second one is the underlying guilt, low self-esteem, excessive self-concern or innate sense of badness. If there is underlying anger, in that case, hypochondrial symptoms symbolically represent this underlying anger, and this anger is generated in the past due to maltreatment like rejection, criticism, disappointment, abuse, or loss. Initially, this anger is repressed through repression defense mechanism and is converted into the physical symptoms or sickness through hypochondrial defense mechanism. In the present, whenever subject faces any kinds of stressors, then the hypochondrial symptoms are bring into the action through displacement defense mechanism. Initially, subjects solicit the help and concerns of the others, then reject them as ineffective. So from here, we can say that anger is released through this hypochondrial repression and displacement defense mechanisms in a faulty way. Now coming to the second psychodynamic view of the illness anxiety disorder. Here, illness anxiety disorder occurs due to the underlying guilt, low self-esteem, excessive self-concern or innate sense of badness. So hypochondriasis is a defense against the guilt and these other negativities. Through these hypochondrial defense mechanisms, patient atone and expiate for the past real or imagined wrongdoings. So, through these hypochondrial defense mechanisms, patient gives self-punishment. Now coming to the treatment of illness anxiety disorder. In case of the illness anxiety disorder, we have to follow the certain guiding principle that moves towards the psychotherapy or pharmacological treatment. These guiding principles are: first one is the alliance, second one is the assessment, third one is the avoiding the psychological questioning and interpretations, and fourth one is the adopting the caring rather than curing approach. First one is the therapeutic alliance. Here we build the rapport and trust with the patient. For this, first of all, we have to respect the patient's symptoms and acknowledge its validity. To achieve this, we have certain essential skills. First one is the empathic listening. Second one is the to develop the tolerance for repetition and presentation of the multiple medical records. And third one is the to be a non-judgmental or have neutral stance. That is, neither dismiss or confront the patient nor provide the premature reassurance. Remember, providing the premature reassurance in patients with illness anxiety disorder does not help, albeit it may increase the patient's anxiety. Second one is the assessment. No matter previous medical records, lab reports or procedures are not suggestive of any abnormality, we have to take a detailed history and thorough physical examination in first visit and brief examination in the subsequent visits. Third one is to avoid the psychological questioning and its interpretation, or physical versus psychological. Remember, patient with illness anxiety disorder appears to be more comfortable while providing or telling the somatic concerns or somatic histories. So do not emphasize more on asking the psychological questions and its interpretation at an earlier interview. So do not ask these questions like, do you have any kind of stress, or this stress is causing your problems? Otherwise, it may hinder the development of the rapport and trust. Yes, of course, once a trust and rapport develop, then one may gently ask and encourage the patient to tell about the personal history, past history, family history or stressors. Then patient may be more willing to tell about or reveal about the stressors like trauma, loss, etc. And while history moves along, one may also come to know about the patient's beliefs, attitudes, coping mechanisms or fears, and knowing these factors may help in identifying the precipitating or maintaining factors. Now coming to the psychotherapies and pharmacotherapies. In psychotherapies, cognitive behavior therapy, supportive therapy and the psychodynamic psychotherapies are provided. Cognitive behavior therapy is the treatment of choice for illness anxiety disorder. In this, first of all, we assess the patient's faulty cognitive schemes and the faulty coping mechanisms. Then we try to challenge it and correct it with the appropriate and more helpful cognitions and coping mechanisms. In pharmacotherapies, we give the serotonergic drugs, especially in case of the comorbid anxiety or depressive disorders.